Hello, everybody. It's me, Fee, White Zulu, and I want to welcome you to another chapter of, another chapter of Okavango Diary. And I hope you're enjoying these readings. I want to welcome you all. And if you are enjoying them, please share or press the like button or whatever people do if they want to. I'm sorry, I'm a bit Diomaka today. I haven't got any words in front of me to read, so I'm doing this off the cuff. However, this is a greeting to you all and a welcome, and I hope that you enjoy these chapters that I'm reading out. They go out twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays, if all goes well. And enjoy them, and thank you so much for listening to them. Share them around. Thank you and goodbye.
Guests are currently an entrepreneur from Fifth Avenue, New York, an English couple from Gibraltar, and a lovely Swiss French lady with a travelling companion whom we thought was her husband, but is a Roman Catholic priest. He had married her to her late husband and had been a friend of the family for 60 years. He took his vows 52 years ago and now designs the robes that they all wear for their religious ceremonies at the Vatican and everywhere else. The conversation at dinner is very interesting, hearing about Gibraltar, as this couple is third or fourth generation born and bred and are really Maltese. Madame Francois is an expert on the Principality of Monaco and knows all about the Monacan royal family, as she has a summer home and spends half the year there. It turns out that the American's daughter was at university with Prince Albert, and he was called Conehead there due to premature balding. All the Swiss people I have met so far, without exception, know Chateau d'Ay very well and have skied on La Praille or Les Dix Blarets, the very same slopes I know so well. Madame Francois lives for part of the year next to the very pretty town of Vevey on Lake Geneva, where I spent those months at Aux Fontanettes, the finishing school, behaving extremely badly. On their last morning, there isn't enough time for them to go on a boat excursion before their plane leaves for Tsaro, just before lunch. I offer to give them both a tour of the camp and take them up to the laundry where the room staff are washing and ironing the towels and bedding. Since there is no electricity up there, everything is done the old-fashioned way. There's a great big log fire out in the open with several three-legged iron pots standing over it. The women are stirring the linen in hot water with soap powder added, using 6-foot-long wooden poles. Once it's rinsed and put through a hand wringer, everything is pegged out on the washing lines to dry, which in that hot, dry African sun takes no time at all, not more than half an hour. The ironing is done using flat irons. Red-hot cinders are placed in an iron chamber beneath the handle, and then the flat part is clamped on. The women sprinkle water over the sheets and then apply the irons, which then hiss as they smooth out all the wrinkles. Before we got electricity on the farm where I grew up, our housemaids, who doubled as nannies, did all our ironing and washing in exactly the same way, except Dad's short shirts and our Liberty smocked dresses also had starch applied, from a little box of robin's starch. Our housemaids also tossed a tiny muslin bag of washing blue into all our white sheets and any other white garments. Madame Françoise and the priest are fascinated to see laundry being done in such a medieval way, and they ask many interested questions. After that, I take them down to the water's edge, where all the maqueros are moored, and we see a pair of malachite kingfishers fishing from a pole in the water. Finally, I take them to see the water pump, which pulls the swamp water in through a filter and sends it throughout the camp for irrigating, washing and bathing, but not for drinking. We have bottled water for that. As we can't trust the filter to remove all the microscopic dangers, like bilharzia from the delta, the water itself is crystal clear everywhere, and from a boat you can see to the bottom where the water lilies grow, especially when the sun shines through the water. But it can't be absolutely trusted not to carry parasites or any other kinds of disease. All around the pump and leading right through the soft lawn to the pilots' huts are deep elephant footprints, so deep that some of them can be measured at 12 inches or 1 foot. My guests are most intrigued by the tour of behind the scenes. We've just said goodbye with hugs and tears to two lovely elderly Germans, Rosie and George, who celebrated their 42nd wedding anniversary with us. We presented them with a bottle of champagne at lunch and drank a toast to them. They've invited me to stay with them either in Bissendorf, their home in the mountains of Germany, or at their holiday home in Mallorca on the Mediterranean, where they spend half the year. I'm rapidly getting invitations to all parts of the globe as I meet and make friends with guests. All the ones I've mentioned in all my letters are now insisting that I use their homes as a base when and if I ever travel abroad. Dwayne, an endearingly cute young Kiwi pilot, has just flown up from Maun in India X-ray with my 20 dozen eggs for the week. He said proudly as he stepped on shore carrying them, "I didn't even crack one." He's madly in love with Kira in a sort of goofy, puppyish way, and is spending the night here as he flies people out early tomorrow. Friday, 22nd of August. The Maltese couple came back with Madumo, their guide, to tell us about a pride of 8 lions they have seen on the island of Jerry Jerry, which means monkey monkey, about 3 kilometers away. A buffalo was killed about 2 days ago, and the lions are still feeding on the carcass. At 3:30 p.m. I was invited to join Françoise and Henri in their boat and with Rusta as our guide. We had a wonderful afternoon. It's the first time I've put foot off the island since I got here on the 1st of the month. It was beautifully warm and still. We drove through the narrow papyrus channels in the motorboat, looking at birds, water lilies, papyrus flowers, and the odd hippopod, as well as many crocs. When we went ashore at Jerry Jerry, we went on foot in single file, following the spoor of Madumo's party, as well as watching where the vultures were circling and settling. We were very quiet as we weren't sure where the pride was and had no gun. When we got to the remains of the carcass, it looked deserted, except for a few marabou storks and lots of vultures. The temptation to walk up to the carcass for a closer look was strong, as there was a reedbuck grazing unconcernedly nearby. But Ruster stood on a termite mound and whistled shrilly. 4 large heads popped out of the long grass in the shade of a clump of palms, right next to where the vultures were feasting. A big black-maned lion stood slowly up, followed by 3 young males. They looked at us for a while as we stood frozen to the spot and hardly daring to breathe. Then they all strolled to another shady patch and lay down again, except one who kept on looking back at the long grass. There are still some lions lying there, whispered Ruster. Sure enough, a big lioness got up and stared at us intently. Then, from another clump of palms, appeared another lioness with 3 small cubs following her. 9 lions in total, distributed in 3 groups, and maybe more that we hadn't seen. The whole pride had gorged itself, their bellies were bulging, and in the heat of the afternoon just wanted peace and quiet in order to lie down and pant. Hence the buck grazing so close. We stood and took lots of photos, and then, once all the lions had settled down to sleep again, backed slowly and quietly away to walk to where the boat was moored. What a thrilling experience. On the way home, in the scarlet setting sun, we paid a visit to Bird Island, where we watched as great white egrets, squacco, rufous-bellied and grey herons, darters and reed cormorants, and the odd sacred ibis all squabbled and squawked as they tried to settle on their roosts for the night. Saturday, 23rd of August. I'm still sleeping in the owner's cottage as Dwayne, who has guests to fly out early tomorrow morning, is overnighting in Pilot's 2 again. And the 2 lions seem to have taken up permanent residence at Moxa. This cottage is only a few feet from the water, and in the moonlight I sat up by the window with the battery lights off and watched the hippos rippling the reflection of the moon in the water. I could hear them breathing as they were so close. Hyenas were calling, as well as leopards, lion and jackal. Later on I heard shouting and pandemonium, but ignored it, put the pillow over my head and carried on sleeping. In the morning I came across Fred chuckling away to himself. Oscar had asked to go back to Bible school ages ago and had been given permission to leave on the 23rd. Head office in Maun recruited a replacement called Cosmos, a skinny little umfaan, otherwise known as a young boy, completely squint, aged about 16. Cosmos had flown up in Juliet Echo with Kira at the beginning of the month. When she turned round in her seat while they were waiting to take off, she asked him if he had ever flown before. His reply was, "No, I'm going to vomit." I issued him with his uniform, which he tried on in the workshop, and went off proudly, wearing his standard issue floppy khaki hat, which was far too big and resting on his nose. 10 days later, I heard a faint scratching at the office window. There was Cosmos. He'd finally had to admit his hat was too big, and all the others were teasing him about it. He did look as though he was wearing a small tent or a huge khaki tea cozy on his puny head. Anyway, Oscar had been given instructions by Fred to show Cosmos, now called Gladly, after Gladly the Cross-Eyed Bear, a parody of the hymn Gladly the Cross-Eyed Bear. The ropes and train him for elephant chasing. 2 of our regular elephants had arrived in the night, plus a friend, and the noise of them pulling branches down had woken Fred. He'd got up and gone to find both Oscar and Gladly fast asleep on mattresses in the guest loo, after having eaten the supper I'd put out for them and sprayed themselves liberally with peaceful sleep mosquito repellent spray, which we keep in the bar for the guests. This was so that the mosquitoes wouldn't bother them and keep them awake. They both got a boot from Fred and sent to throw rocks and beat their paraffin tins. That's all for this week, folks. Next one is chapter 9. Still more excitement, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to my videos and my stories of my life. And I want to thank John Moslane for being what I call the sound engineer, but I'm sure there's a more professional word for it. However, faithful, and for 4 years now, I think, he has been here for me every Wednesday. Well, I think it's Wednesdays, but once a week to record 2 chapters of whichever book it is I'm reading. And without him, this couldn't be done. So a big thank you to John. Also, Sean van Vuren, we send the videos to him. Sorry, I'm not reading this. I'm just doing it off the cuff. And my brain is a bit tumor. And Sean uploads them to the YouTube channel where you can find them all in playlists. He does it beautifully. And I want to thank them both for all the help that they give me. Well, it's not help. They do everything for me. And it's a great asset. So also, I have a website called whitezulubook.com, obviously www in front of it. But you'll find it there. Quite easy to find. Johnny Clegg's called The White Zulu. Mine's called White Zulu. And you will find on my website, you'll find all kinds of photographs going way back to when my ancestors settled in the Cape, 1652. Well, not photographs of them, but descriptions. This photograph of my grandmother's wedding, and lovely, lovely photos of the farm we still own. My sister sent me a photograph this morning of the farm in midsummer, and she says how beautiful it's looking. I've had a lot of rain. So, just want to thank my helpers, John and Sean, to thank you all for listening, and also please share this with everybody else. Hit the like button and enjoy. Goodbye.